Today we're going back to some of the early themes. We're going to look at the theme of light and darkness and some more about John the Baptist. Let's look at verse 19 of John 3. This is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but men love darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that his deeds will be exposed. It reminds me of when we lived on the boat and I'd get up at night and turn on the light and the cockroaches would run for cover before I walloped them. And Nicodemus had come by night to see Jesus, and Jesus is saying, you don't have to hide from the light like the Pharisees are doing. You come to the light. And it says in verse 21, whoever lives by the truth comes into the light, so that it may be seen plainly that what he has done has been done through God. So he's calling Nicodemus to live in the light. I like to turn to the last two verses of Psalm 139 and make it my prayer. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me and lead me in the way everlasting. We do not need to be afraid of the light. We need to trust Jesus to shine his light into the dark recesses of our mind and to get rid of anything that is not of him. After that, Jesus went back into the Judean hills to where John the Baptist was preaching. And some of John's friends came to him and said, hey, you know that fellow Jesus, he's sheep stealing. He's taking our people and they're following him. And John, in all his humility, pointed to Jesus. He said, I'm just the messenger. He's the Christ. He said, I'm the best man. He's the bridegroom. I'm the earthly man. He's the heavenly man. We too need to do this. Matthew 5:16 says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. We don't point to what we've done. We point to Jesus. He's the one who deserves all the glory. And so we do what John the Baptist did. And in verse 30, he says, he must become greater and I must become less. Now John said that Jesus was the bridegroom. If he's the bridegroom, who's the bride? Well, I tell you, you are. I am. The church is. Ephesians 5:31 and 32 talks about the relationship between a man and his wife. That a man shall leave his father and mother, cleave to his wife, and they will be one flesh. And then Paul says to us, I'm not talking just about men and women, I'm talking about a mystery. This is what it's like between Jesus and the church. It's the same 100% giving of one to the other, a same absolutely intimate relationship. We are the bride of Christ, and he is preparing a bride that is spotless and without fault, and washing her with his word. One day we will come to the wedding feast of the Lamb. It talks about it in Revelation 19, and it says that the bride has got herself ready, wearing robes of righteousness. One day we will be Jesus' bride at the wedding feast of the Lamb. The last bit I want to look at here is verse 34. For the one whom God has sent speaks the words of God. To him, God gives the Spirit without limit. Here we have the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. They're intimately connected. God sent his beloved Son, Jesus. Jesus came into the world to do what the Father wanted him to do, and the Holy Spirit empowered him. You can't have one without the other. It's like a man whose wife died, leaving him with one son whom he loved. And down the years he decides to remarry, and he says to the young lady, I'd like to marry you. And she says, yes, I want to marry you too, but I don't want your son. Well, you can't do that. It's a package deal. The man loves his son. It's the same with God. He loves his son. You can't reject Jesus and stay close to God. You have to come to Jesus to come to God. And who would reject Jesus? When you see how loving and compassionate he is, you will want to love him. Next time, we're going to talk about the thirsty woman. And I want you to think of 3 things. What did Jesus mean when he said he was living water? Why did the woman believe what he said? And what was the first thing she did after believing? Bye.